Hi, Right Riders. Cruz here. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, we are going to be looking at the topic, Does technology make us more lonely? It is an argumentative topic, and we are going to be constructing two body paragraphs. And one body paragraph, we're going to be looking at that the arguing that yes, technology does make us more lonely. And then in the next body paragraph, we're going to be looking at no, technology does not make us more lonely. Now, in a previous video, I basically constructed all of these reasons why technology does make us more lonely. So rather than going through these one by one, I would encourage you to click on that video so that we can go ahead and launch into our body paragraph. So when I begin this body paragraph, I could begin with a conjunctive adverb, something like in addition. If I was maybe writing a second body paragraph supporting the idea, I could also just use, one of my favorite transition words, indeed, where I reinforce my position. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that one. And I want to bring up my topic again. It's always the format that I typically use with argumentative essays, especially because I constantly, number one, want to bring up the topic. And number two, I also want to remind myself of what this body paragraph is going to be about. And that's a way to do that, right, writers? So in this case, I'm going to say something like, indeed, technology does make us more lonely. For instance, okay, so here I'm going to go into, again, some sort of example. So I could say, for example, or I could say, for instance. I'm going to use the for instance. Indeed, technology does make us more lonely. For instance, when we consider how much time we spend on our personal devices, we may discover. For instance, when we consider how much time we spend on our personal devices, we may discover, or something like, and maybe I'll say if. For instance, if we analyzed how much time we spend on our personal devices, we could calculate how often. So I was going to say much again, and I did not want to repeat myself, right, writers. For instance, if we analyzed how much time we spend on our personal devices, we could calculate how often we are spending, or maybe just saying how often we are alone. I think I'm going to go with the transition word, or not transition word, but subordinating conjunction here because, for instance, if we analyzed how much time we spend on our personal devices, we could calculate how often we are alone because I was going to say essentially this interaction, but I'm going to take that out because this interaction is a one-to-one experience. And I could say something like, by this or one-to-one experience. In other words, we are interacting with our phone rather than with other people. Again, oftentimes I think we think we're interacting with other people, but we're essentially, when we're in our phones and we have our face in our phones. I mean, it's essentially again a one-on-one experience, but that one-on-one is us with the phone and not with those around us. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this, right, writers? So let's take a look at how this is looking. Indeed, technology does make us more lonely. For instance, if we analyzed how much time we spend on our personal devices, we could calculate how often we are alone because this interaction is a one to one experience. In other words, we are interacting alone. And maybe I'll bring that up again. In other words, we are interacting alone with our phone. In other words, we are interacting, or maybe I'll say, in other words, we are interacting with our phone. However, that interaction, the human interaction, is, let's see how I could put that right, writers. In other words, we are interacting with our phone. However, the human interaction is a lonely one because, however, this interaction, the human interaction is a lonely one, is a lone one. Or maybe something like is a singular one, is a singular experience. Or saying, however, this interaction is a singular experience. In other words, we are interacting with our phone. However, our phone, or maybe I'll do something like this. I'll change, however, into a conjunctive adverb and say, in other words, we are interacting with our phone. Or we are interacting alone with our phone. This interaction is a singular experience. And one that is ours, one that is alone. In other words, we are interacting alone with our phone. This interaction, I think I'm going to put a period there. This interaction is a singular experience. One that we are experiencing alone. And then I could say something like compound all of those singular experiences over time, and we can begin to unravel exactly how much time we spend alone, how much time we spend alone. So I definitely want to bring up lonely here, right, writers. So I'm going to just kind of make a note of that at the end. But here's what I have so far. Indeed, technology does make us more lonely. For instance, if we analyzed how much time we spend on our personal devices, we could calculate how often we are alone because this interaction is a one to one experience. In other words, we are interacting alone with our phone. And maybe I should say a 1 to 0 experience. Um, and I think I'm going to change that. It's not 1 to 1, it's a 1 to 0 experience. In other words, we are interacting alone with our phone. This interaction is a singular experience, one that we are experiencing alone. I feel like that's a little bit repetitive. In other words, we are interacting alone with our phone. This interaction is a singular experience. Compound, yeah, I really do not like that, right, writers. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm just going to sort of take that like that and just delete, and then we'll continue. This interaction is a singular experience. Compound all of those singular experiences over time, and we can begin to unravel exactly how much time we spend alone. And maybe I'll say the more time, thus, the more time we spend alone, the more lonely we feel. Or thus, the more time we spend alone with technology, the more lonely we feel, or the more lonely we become. Okay, I really, I'm sort of digging this paragraph, right, writers. I am excited about what I've created here. Going through it one more time, right, writers, before we go into our no position. Indeed, technology does make us more lonely. For instance, if we analyzed how much time we spent or we spend, if we analyzed how much time we spent, I think I'll go with spend. For instance, if we analyzed how much time we spend on our personal devices, we could calculate how often we are alone because this interaction is a one to one experience. Oh, we could calculate how often we are alone because this interaction is a 1 to 0 experience, not a 1 to 1, a 1 to 0 experience. In other words, we are interacting alone with our phone. This interaction is a singular experience. Compound all of those singular experiences over time, and we begin to unravel exactly how much time we spend alone. Thus, the more time we spend alone with technology, the more lonely we become. Okay, and so you might start to see how this paragraph is sort of going full circle here. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, um, Cruz, I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit repetitive. It feels a bit philosophical, but I kind of appreciate where this is going. And I'm just going to leave it as is, and we can always come back and revisit it. And now I want to go ahead and go into the no category and arguing that no, technology does not make us more lonely. And again, I want to mimic some of the same strategies that I used for the yes body paragraph. So it looks like I have 6 sentences, right, writers? So I definitely want to make sure that I write at least 6 sentences in this section as well. So here we're going to argue that no, technology does not make us more lonely. And again, I want to use very similar formatting here. And so I might say something like, indeed, technology does not make us more lonely. And then I can go into this idea of, um, even thinking about what I said in my yes category and how I might flip that, and that we are ultimately to blame for our own loneliness. And I know you see a lot of ideas here, right, writers, but I have another video where go through that process. So, for the sake of time, I'm just jumping in here. Indeed, technology does not make us more lonely. Um, and I can say, for instance, again, or I can say, for example, just to change it up a little bit, but still using a similar um, transition. Indeed, technology does not make us more lonely. For example, technology is a tool we use to connect. I'm thinking of, how we use technology. We use it to interact with other people, to connect. Um, so maybe I'll say that to interact and connect with others or with other individuals. Indeed, technology does not make us more lonely. For example, technology is a tool we use to interact and connect with other individuals. To blame technology for our loneliness. And I was sort of thinking of this idea of, again, if we use it as a tool, and I was thinking of, especially if we use cars often rather than walking, it's sort of like, oh, if I'm, you know, I guess if I'm not healthy or if I'm unhealthy, I'm blaming my car for it because, again, I'm not walking as much as I used to. I'm not as active as I used to be. And so I was thinking, it's akin to sort of blaming our cars for being unhealthy. So to blame technology for our loneliness um, is akin to blaming transportation for our unhealthy. To blame technology for our loneliness is akin to blaming transportation for our unhealthy lifestyle choices. Because again, if you're thinking about it, transportation can take you to certain places maybe you shouldn't be going to, whether it's our mental health, our physical health. So it's just sort of, that's sort of what I connected it with, right, writers? Again, you just kind of go with the flow. That's just what came into my brain and that's what I'm writing. To blame technology for our loneliness is akin or is similar to, or is, I don't want to say is just like, I want to try to sound as academic as possible. And so, again, I'm arguing is akin to blaming transportation for our unhealthy lifestyle choices. And something like, we contribute to our own loneliness, or we contribute to our this lonely. Another way, I'm just thinking of ways to say lonely. We contribute to our own isolation when we choose to keep our devices or access our devices. We contribute to our own isolation when we choose to access our devices. Or maybe I'll say uninterrupted access to our devices, logical devices. We contribute to our own isolation when we choose uninterrupted access to our technological devices. Addition, or in essence, so let me count how many sentences I have, right, writers. Right now I've got one, two, three, and I've got 4. So I'm looking at, 2 more sentences. And again, that's really trying to create some balance in your writing as well. Because I think that, especially if computer software is grading these essays, I think these devices are sort of set up, these programs, to see, did you come up with as many sentences? And did you consider the opposing opinion, the opposing argument, with as much clarity and weight? So I want to make sure that I am considering that as I'm writing these paragraphs. Indeed, technology does not make us more lonely. For example, technology is a tool we use to interact and connect with other individuals. To blame technology for our loneliness is akin to blaming transportation for our unhealthy lifestyle choices. We contribute to our own isolation when we choose uninterrupted access to our technological devices. In essence, we we create these feelings of loneliness when we exclude ourselves from face to face. In essence, we create these feelings of loneliness, or just saying, in essence, we create feelings of loneliness when we exclude ourselves from face to face interactions. Authentic face to face interactions with the real people in our lives. Let's take it from the top, right, writers. Indeed, technology does not make us more lonely. For example, technology is a tool we use to interact and connect with other individuals. To blame technology for our loneliness is akin to blaming transportation for our unhealthy lifestyle choices. We contribute to our own isolation when we choose uninterrupted access to, or I can say, when we choose unlimited access, uninterrupted and unlimited access. And maybe I'll say that uninterrupted and unlimited access to our technological devices. In essence, we create feelings of loneliness when we exclude ourselves from authentic face to face. I don't like that comma there. I'm going to take that out. From authentic face to face interactions with the real people in our lives. Instead, I will say with real people. Real people. From authentic face to face interactions with real people. I know that sounds strange, but it makes sense in what we're talking about here in our topic. So um, I need a closing sentence. Therefore, technology, and then I'll really have six sentences, right, writers? Therefore, technology does not make us more lonely. We do. And I could sort of have a colon, I could use a dash. The dazzling dash is what I like to call it. Um, create more drama, or a more um, interesting pause. Therefore, technology, or I can say thus, technology, we do. Thus, technology does not make us more lonely. We do. Okay, right, writers. I'm going to go ahead and now um, look at both the yes and the no. And so you can sort of see it side by side. And we'll take a look at that next. So now we're going to go back to the yes category or the yes side, not category, but the yes side. And then we're going to go to the no side and review these body paragraphs one more time. Then we will end this video. Let's go ahead and take it from the top here. For the yes, technology does make us more lonely. Here's what I have. Indeed, technology does make us more lonely. For instance, if we analyzed how much time we spend on our personal devices, we could calculate how often we are alone because this interaction is a 1 to 0 experience. In other words, we're interacting alone with our phone. This interaction is a singular experience. Compound all of those singular experiences over time, and we can begin to unravel exactly how much time we spend alone. Thus, the more time we spend alone with technology, the more lonely we become. Now we're going to go to the no side. Indeed, technology does not make us more lonely. For example, technology is a tool we use to interact and connect with other individuals. To blame technology for our loneliness is akin to blaming transportation for our unhealthy lifestyle choices. We contribute to our own isolation when we choose uninterrupted and unlimited access to our technological devices. In essence, we create feelings of loneliness when we exclude ourselves from authentic face to face interactions with real people. Thus, technology does not make us more lonely. We do. I apparently have just better voice and I can think of reasons why not to do something or not to support something than why to support something. So apparently I'm just more contrarian. That's my natural personality. And so whenever I see a topic, I always go no rather than yes. And it's just my natural, it's my natural personality. It's in my blood to do it. And so it comes out in voice and in my writing. And I encourage you, writers, and perhaps you've never really been taught to think about it this way, but when you're thinking about an argumentative essay, my question to you would be, are you a person who tends to agree with the majority of people? Or are you always that person who just wants to say no? And so that really allows you to see and to uncover your strengths as a writer. If you naturally agree and are an agreeable person, then you're always going to want to, in an argumentative essay, support the topic and explain why, yes, indeed, this is exactly why technology makes us more lonely. However, if you're someone who is confrontational, combative, assertive, perhaps you are better off in arguing no on whatever topic you're given. For me, my inclination is always to go with no. And as you can see from this side by side comparison, I believe that my no paragraph does a much better job than my yes paragraph. So, again, be thinking about that when you're constructing an argumentative essay. Not sure whether you've ever been taught to sort of think about it in this way, and to write using your own personal voice. However, I hope that it ensures your success, and I believe that ultimately it will lead to a more passionate argumentative essay, and it will increase your score or your grade. So, with that said, writers, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video ensures your success, and I appreciate you um, embarking on this journey with me. I apologize. Sometimes it feels very painful as I'm thinking aloud or thinking quietly. But the goal of this channel and what we're doing here is to demonstrate explicitly how writing looks, the process of writing, how painful it is, what a struggle it is. And, ultimately, that's what this channel is about. So, with that said, writers, take care. Have a great rest of your week. And I look forward to seeing you again in future videos. I know for this next video, I'm going to be looking at writing an introduction and a conclusion on this same topic on whether or not technology makes us or does not make us more lonely. Okay, take care, writers. Great to see you all and love you guys. Hope to see you again next Tuesday. Bye bye.